Welcome, Brian Camozzi here to MMA Oddsbreaker. Getting ready to do battle at RFA 37 coming up against Jordan Larson. April 15th, tax day, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Well, tax day for us here in America. I don't know what it is in Canada, or they even have taxes. I'm not sure how that works up there, but whatever. You've never been to South Dakota before, correct?
Nope.
Okay, so yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of great wrestlers.
Yeah, that's what I hear. I've got some teammates that came from South Dakota, and yeah, I hear interesting and boring. So
yeah,
I guess
definitely
we'll
boring. But a lot of great wrestlers have come out of there. I'm surprised that more great fighters haven't come from there, just because of the upbringing, the life. I think it's still where there's more cattle than there are people. So it's like one of those situations like in the whole state. Like it's really strange, but great place. Once you get to know people, it's a great spot to be in. But yeah, you're right. As far as like coming from the Denver area and then moving up there or going up there, definitely boring. Definitely a lot less to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, well, we know the venue isn't going to be, the crowd's not going to be hometown towards you. So it's kind of a neutral site for the both of you. It doesn't really matter much. And it doesn't really matter much anyway in a fight where you're fighting. It just matters more to the crowd. But how do you think the crowd's going to be? With just hearing from your teammates, how do you think the crowd's going to be when you get in there and get announced inside the cage?
For a while, my opponent ended up getting changed. So Larson was my original opponent.
Oh, that's right.
Who was from South Dakota. Yeah, so I expected a hostile crowd, but I've got a new guy from Minneapolis now, so I imagine it's just going to be kind of neutral.
What happened with Larson? I apologize, I forgot. What happened with Larson when he got was this a freak injury or?
To be honest, I don't really know any details. I mean, the only thing I heard is just that he was injured and they started hunting for somebody new.
How long have you had to get ready for your new opponent?
Let's see. I found out last Thursday, so it's been about a week.
Okay.
So not a ton of time, but I mean, I focus more on me anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Really, only last Thursday would have been the 31st, right? So only 15 days, really, to get ready for a new opponent. But you're in training camp, doesn't really matter. And the one thing I do like about Mark Montoya at Factory X is that his emphasis more so on you as the fighter, not so much as your opponent. He'll tweak a couple of things to get you ready for your opponent, but he doesn't really force you to change your whole style or change your whole mindset. He wants you just to be a better athlete. Now, mind you, this is me on the outside looking into the camp. Is that what you feel like on the inside of the camp as well?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. I mean, and that's how I like to look at it too. So it's nice. Like you said, I mean, we tweak a couple things to, depending on how tall they are, range, things like that. But for the most part, I just focus on what I'm good at, what I'm going to do, and we'll go from there.
When it comes to practice, obviously your brother's probably one of the biggest influences for you, one of your biggest supporters in the gym, but also too your brothers. So there's a lot of battle going on between the two of you all the time anyway. It's just how families are. Plus you're competitive. Plus you're both alpha males. Do you guys sometimes have to settle things in the rounds? Like, okay, well, we're mad from last weekend at the family outing. So this Wednesday now I'm going to beat the crap out of you just to get it settled. Does that go on a lot inside the practice room for you two?
No, we're pretty good. I mean, growing up, we were always just like any brothers, we'd go at it. But since we've been older, I mean, we don't really get into it too much. Now, the only time we'll get into it is in the middle of training. If, one of us catches the other one kind of hard, then it's on from there. But yeah, other than that, I mean, we're usually pretty cool with each other.
So we can obviously tell that you're working for State Farm right now with the shirt on. That's Brian's full-time job, is working for State Farm. But when I texted you earlier today, and we had a date mixed up, this is for the folks at home, we had a date mixed up. I asked him yesterday to go tomorrow, but I actually put in my calendar for today. So I texted him, hey, are you ready? He's like, yeah, I can do it. Let me take a break from work. I was like, whoa, don't get in trouble. He's like, at sales, I can take a break whenever I need to, do whatever I want. So it seems like when training camp comes up, you're able to go, look, I'm sorry, I got to cut out a half hour early because I'm in training camp. I got to, maybe I'll come in a half hour early tomorrow to make up for it or whatever. But you have a pretty lax schedule working for State Farm?
Yeah, I mean, it's not crazy lax, stuff. It's kind of nice. My boss, who's the agent, is actually a personal friend, and he's also trained in MMA. He wrestled in college. He gets it.
Oh.
So he definitely kind of helps me out a little bit if I need time to do something. I mean, obviously I still need to be getting my work done, but as long as I get my work done, he's pretty cool with anything I need. So it definitely helps out.
You're doing sales for him. So are you cold calling or just doing follow-up and making sure you get retention? Like, how are you doing sales for him?
A little bit of everything, man. We got some cold calls. You got service work for current customers, reaching out and following up with people and all kinds of stuff. Pretty much anything you can think of.
The reason why I'm asking so much about your job, because it's you get to a point, as a fighter where you're like, well, I'm making just as much money at my regular job as I am fighting. And then 2 fights later, you're like, I'm making more money at fighting than I am at my regular job. It becomes that balance of, hey, I could drop my regular job and I'm going to lose $30,000, whatever it is a year, by dropping that job, and now I have to increase that $30,000 on the fight side just so I can be a full-time fighter. Are you close to becoming just a full-time fighter and being able to do only just fighting?
No, definitely far off. And it's something I've thought about for the future. But the thing I always think about is I have the luxury of being surrounded by a lot of high-level guys that have, they're in the UFC or they've been to the UFC. A lot of those dudes, even when they've made it to the top, I mean, they're not set for life. Right. So you got to have some kind of backup plan. You got to have something that you're going to be doing if it doesn't work out. So the whole thing has always been, I'm going to fight. I want that to be my job, but you got to make sure you got something on the back end.
Right. And then my generation guys, we're all in school because it wasn't fighting right out of college or right before, right out of high school. We had to go to college because it's all there was for us to do. So most of us, my generation, at least have degrees and are able to move on, go do other things. I kind of worry about the next generation of fighters that are coming through now, where most of them are super young, you included. You're 24, am I right?
Yep.
And you're went right into fighting, so you don't really have a backup plan. You don't have an education to fall back on. Most don't. You actually have a backup plan. You're smart with it, and so it's good to see that you actually got a little deal. I interviewed Cub Swanson a couple days ago, and he was talking about he keeps his overhead really low because he paid off his house and paid off his car. And that's what he did with his win bonuses from the UFC. So he's not set financially like you would think, being a guy like Cub Swanson, because of his name, the fights he's been in, how long he's been in the game. Like you'd think he'd be kind of set. He's like, no, I'm not really set. I just have low overhead because I kept everything small and simple. And so now this is the second interview I'm doing where you're really thinking about the future. You're not just saying it to give me buzzwords for the interview. You're actually doing it. You're like, I really got to think about what's going to happen to me if I make the big leagues and I don't make enough money to survive. What am I going to do? Do you want to be a State Farm agent? Like, do you want to be an insurance agent when you're done with all this because that's the path, or are you just happy enough and you think you make enough money just always working sales for your friend?
It's always in the cards for the future, I guess. As far as getting to that point, I haven't gone that far ahead, but for now, I like what I do, and as long as I have a job and I've got some income, then we're good there.
Don't worry about it. You're 24. You're going to change professions about 8 times before you make your final one. It's just how it works.
Right.
So, well, let's talk about your opponent. Opponent switch. You've had 15 days to look at him. I know you've seen tape because Mark is going to force you to watch tape, just how he works. What do you think? Like, how do you see him coming in?
From what I can tell, he's a decent boxer. He's got clean strikes. I think it's going to take place on the feet for the most part. He's a lefty, so I definitely had to adjust for that. But luckily, a lot of my training partners are lefties anyway, so not a big deal there. From what I can find, there's going to be a pretty big height difference. Granted, a lot of the stats you looked up, who knows if they're true or not.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the problems really with a lot. And that's my next question is like you never really know what for a longest time I've seen guys that were 6 foot were being marked as 5'8". You're like, well, the guy he's 6 foot. Like, why do you have him as marked as 5'8"? It's just a clerical error when they're inputting stuff on the computer, and then it becomes fact. Once it starts getting read by more than 100 people, and now you're like, oh yeah, this guy's 5'8". Like, well, you go to fight a guy that's 5'8", so whole training camp you're punching down, and all of a sudden you have to punch up. It becomes completely different, and it's a whole different ballgame. And like you said, he's a lefty. You have a lot of training partners that are left-handed, but are they in camp right now? Are they at the peak space that you need to get ready for a guy that's going to be left-handed?
That's kind of the nice thing about Factory X that I love is it doesn't matter if you're in camp or not, everybody's there. Everyone trains pretty much nonstop. We go 6 days a week. Obviously, if you're in camp, you got a fight coming up, the intensity might pick up for that person a little bit, but they're always there. Fridays, we get individualized rounds inside the cage so that Mark can watch everything. So it's like, hey, I just need that guy for 1 round. Everyone in there can make it at least 1 round, whether they're out of shape or not.
Right.
So, yeah, I just need you for 1 round and then throw the next guy in.
Yeah, nice. How has it been with Mark as a coach, him traveling with you? Because there's so many fighters now at Factory X, and we talked before we started the interview how many fighters are now starting to move to the Denver, Colorado area, and it's becoming a kind of more of a mecca now for fighting. Getting Mark to come with you because he's got so many fighters right now that are hot and they're traveling, and that he's every weekend he's got someplace he's got to go. Has it become problematic to get him to come with you to corner you?
So funny you should mention that. He's actually going to be going to Italy. We got Brian Rogers who's fighting in Italy, so he'll be there. Yeah, and then I'll have my brother and our jiu-jitsu coach Chase Hackett with me.
Oh, okay, not a bad replacement, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
for Mark. So you'll be in good hands. You'll be good. That's funny though, because Mark is really, since the Spike TV show, the reality show for Spike with the Fighters, he's kind of blown up. And it's taken a couple of years for people to realize that he's up there, but it's gotten now where guys are moving in. Brian came in from Ohio, right? He moved over from Ohio?
Yep.
And then, of course, with Joe Warren up there as well, that demands a lot of attention because his hyperactivity for Joe. But yeah, it's crazy. So now Mark usually corners you, and now he's not going to be there. Yep. Is there another code? I mean, obviously you have your brother, so he knows the code, he knows the sayings, he obviously knows the intakes. But do all the coaches have a meeting of like, okay, this is what you got to tell? Got to tell Brian when he's out fighting. This is what you have to say to Brian when this situation happens. Do the coaches have a meeting like that to get on the same page for what they need to tell you when they're cornering?
I mean, they'll get on the same page as far as a game plan, but as far as any kind of code or anything, I mean, that's information that's shared with the whole team anyway, so that we don't have individualized codes. Everybody just knows what it means when we say it.
Okay.
And I mean, I just think that's a lot easier that way. But yeah, they'll get together and just say, hey, just remind him that he needs to cut this angle or do this constantly. But other than that, I mean, there's not much of a change. And it's for that reason, if Mark can't be there, it doesn't matter. We've got another guy there that can do all the same things, say all the same things.
Perfect. Well, Brian, thanks so much for coming on here. I appreciate spending a couple minutes with us. Have fun back behind your desk, making those cold calls. Have a great rest of your training camp. We're looking about just over a week out at this point now. So
yep.
Have fun in your training camp. Enjoy yourself. Last question before you get out of here. How's your weight right now? Are you close to making weight already, or are you one of those guys that has to wait the last couple of days to cut it all off?
No, I try to never do that. My weight's pretty good. I'm about 183 right now. It's about 13 pounds.
Yeah.
So I'm money. Thanks to Tyler Minton over at the Melee Way. He did my diet for this camp. So yeah, he's kept me on point. It's been pretty much the last thought in my head is weight.
Is this the first time you've used Tyler?
It is actually. Yep.
And you notice a big difference from not using him to using him this camp?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been able to eat a lot more. I don't feel like I'm starving or about to go crazy every day. So energy levels are a lot better. Strength feels a lot better.
Looks like we lost him there for a second. Got cut off. See if we can get a reconnect. No, looks like it's not coming back through. So anyway, thanks, Brian, for coming on here. Really appreciate it. Good luck in your fight next week, and we'll talk to you soon.